Magic Treehouse, Book Number 42, A Merlin Mission, A Good Night for Ghosts. Chapter 6, Find Me at the Greasy Spoon. Street lamps were coming on as Jack, Annie, and Dipper walked away from Jackson Square. When they came to Bourbon Street, vendors walked the sidewalks, calling out, "Ice cream, lemon pie, ham biscuits." Sounds good," said Annie. "There seems to be lots of good food in New Orleans." "Best in the world," said Dipper. People were sitting outside dance halls and restaurants, laughing and talking, eating and drinking. Outside and inside, musicians were blaring away on their instruments. "Hey, there's Dipper! Sing something for us, Dipper!" the ice cream lady yelled. Dipper waved and kept going. "Hey girl, can you play that trumpet?" a man called to Annie. "Not till the time's right," Annie shouted. "When's that?" the man said. "She'll know it when she feels it," Dipper shouted. At the end of the block, under a street lamp, a trio was singing in harmony. It was Little Mac, Happy, and Big Nose Sidney. "Look, Dipper, it's your friends again," said Annie. "I see 'em," said Dipper. But he ignored the three boys and crossed the street. Dipper led Jack and Annie down a narrow alley to the back of a shabby, run-down building. Good cooking smells came from inside. "Y'all wait for me outside this greasy spoon," he said, and he slipped through the back door. "What's a greasy spoon?" asked Annie. "Smells like it must be a restaurant," said Jack. Annie put down the trumpet. Jack put down his bag. They sat on the back steps of the greasy spoon. While they waited in the muggy twilight for Dipper, Jack wiped his forehead. He was starving and ached all over. Soon Dipper pushed open the back door with his foot. He was carrying a big bowl and a tall glass. "I got us some gumbo stew and some lemonade to share," he said. "Talk about good." "Oh man, thanks," breathed Jack. Dipper sat between Jack and Annie on the steps. He pulled spoons out of his pocket for each of them. "Dig in, y'all," he said. Together, the three of them tackled the gumbo stew. They all ate their fill of spicy chicken, ham, tomatoes, okra, onions, and rice. When the bowl was empty, they shared the tall glass of lemonade. Then they sat back on the steps and heaved big sighs. Jack felt stuffed and happy. "Mighty fine," breathed Dipper. "Mighty fine," echoed Jack. "Mighty fine," said Annie. "Nothing tastes as good as gumbo after a hard day's work," said Dipper. He stood up. "Well, I have to leave y'all now. Thanks a million for your help today. And don't forget to thank Teddy and Kathleen for sending y'all to find me." Before Jack and Annie could stop him, Dipper climbed down the steps and vanished into the dark. "Dipper?" And vanished into the dark. "Dipper?" called Jack. There was no answer. "He's gone again," said Annie. "And we totally failed in our mission for Merlin," said Jack. "We didn't help Dipper get on the right path to give his gifts to the world." "I know, we have to find him. Come on," said Annie. She hopped up and headed after Dipper. "Wait, the trumpet," said Jack. He grabbed the magic trumpet in his bag and followed her. When Jack left the steps, it was too dark for him to see where Annie had gone. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The air felt heavy and thick, as if the storm were about to break at any moment. "Annie!" Jack called. "Here!" Annie called back, from the front of the restaurant. Jack joined her. Together, they peeked through a window that looked into a large kitchen. Dipper was alone, washing a mountain of dishes. "Why's he doing that?" whispered Jack. "Hey, Dipper," said Annie. Dipper turned and smiled. "You caught me," he said. He looked embarrassed. "Why are you washing dishes?" asked Annie. Dipper shrugged. "Got to pay for our dinner somehow," he said. "We'll help you," said Annie. "We love washing dishes," said Jack. Dipper laughed. "Then come on in, potato heads," he said. "I could use some help." Jack and Annie slipped through a side door into the hot, steamy kitchen. Jack put down his bag and the trumpet. He and Annie picked up dirty plates from the counter. They began scraping leftovers into a garbage pail. They scraped fish heads, oyster shells, crab legs, shrimp tails, chicken bones, grease, and gravy off dozens of plates. The work was messy and smelly, but Jack and Annie worked hard to keep up with Dipper. Every time he took a plate from them, he smiled and said, "Thank you." He never frowned or complained or even seemed tired. "Dipper," said Annie while they worked, "your life seems really hard. How do you stay so cheerful?" "Why not? It's more fun to be cheerful than sad," he said. "Don't you ever feel like getting mad or complaining about stuff?" said Jack. "Sure I do, I'm human," said Dipper. "I feel all kinds of things. All day long I feel things. You could say I have a rich life. I might not get to have everything, but I get to feel everything." He laughed. "I'm the same way," said Annie. "I thought so," said Dipper. "That's why I sure would like to hear you play that trumpet sometime." "Maybe you will," said Annie. By the time they finished washing dishes, rain was falling outside. "Where to now?" said Jack. "One more treat for y'all," said Dipper. "Let's leave this greasy spoon and head back down to the river cafe for dessert. Come on." "We better not," said Jack. "The waiters there don't like us." "Don't worry about them," said Dipper. "You're with me now." Jack and Annie followed Dipper outside into the rain. The wind was blowing harder now. "Uh-oh," said Dipper. "Here comes the storm. Let's hurry." Thunder cracked and rain began to pour down. The three of them got soaked as they hurried through the alley back to Bourbon Street. The street was empty now. Partygoers and street musicians had fled from the storm. The restaurants and cafes had taken their chairs and tables inside. Lightning lit the sky and thunder shook the ground. The wind was blowing hard, picking up sticks and leaves and trash. "We have to find cover," said Dipper. "Run!" He and Jack and Annie bowed their heads against the downpour and ran up Bourbon Street. "Dipper, over here, man!" someone yelled. It was Little Mac. Little Mac, Happy, and Big Nose Sydney were waving to Dipper from the doorway of a dark building on a corner. Dipper, Jack, and Annie ran across the street through the pounding rain. "Get over here, out of the street," shouted Little Mac, "before you get hit by lightning." "Thanks, fellas," said Dipper. Soaking wet, Jack, Annie, Dipper, Little Mac, Happy, and Big Nose Sydney all crowded together just inside the dark building, looking out at the storm. "Who lives here?" asked Dipper. "Nobody. It's been empty for years," said Happy. "Used to be a blacksmith shop," said Little Mac. "Lafitte's blacksmith shop?" said Jack. He immediately stepped out of the shop and stood under the eaves. Yeah, what's wrong with that? Asked little Mac. We read this place is haunted, said Annie. Y'all believe in ghosts? Asked little Mac. No, not really, said Jack. But I thought you said they gave you the heebie, started Dipper. No, I was kidding, Jack said quickly. He didn't want Dipper's friends to know he was afraid of ghosts. Lightning split the sky again. Another crash of thunder shattered the night. The wind blew so hard that shingles blew off the roof, across the street, and crashed to the sidewalk. Whoa! Come inside, man. We gotta close the door, Dipper said to Jack. Hold on, said little Mac. We have to go. We do? Asked Happy. Little Mac whispered something to Happy and Big Nose Sydney. Oh, yeah, he's right, said Happy. We have to leave. We'll see y'all later. Y'all are scared to stay here, aren't you? Said Dipper. No, man, we forgot we have an important gig to play, said Big Nose Sydney. Oh, suddenly y'all have got an important gig. I see, said Dipper. Yeah, we'll have to try to make it through the storm. See y'all. Come on, fellas, said little Mac. The three boys hurried out of the blacksmith shop and turned the corner. They left because they're scaredy cats, said Dipper, chuckling. Yeah, said Jack. Scaredy cats. Thunder cracked the sky again, the loudest crack so far. It seemed to shake the whole block. Roof shingles flew through the air. Come back inside, said Dipper. It's dangerous out there. Jack took a deep breath and stepped back into Lafitte's blacksmith shop. Chapter 7 Skid-at-de-dat. Dipper closed the door. It was pitch black inside the shop. As the wind howled outside, the broken shutters banged against the brick walls. A gust of damp air blew through the room. It's dark in here, said Annie. And cold. It's creepy, said Jack. Yep, said Dipper. Let's leave. I've changed my mind about staying here. We can find some other place to get out of the storm. Good idea, said Annie. Great idea, said Jack. Jack heard Dipper rattle the door handle. Uh-oh, said Dipper. Uh-oh what? Said Jack. Won't open, said Dipper. It's stuck. Jack felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. The shutters banged in the wind. Hold on a second, I've got some matches in my pocket, said Dipper. I just hope they didn't get wet in the rain. Jack heard Dipper trying to strike a match. He tried 1, 2, 3 times, then he held up a small flame. Yay! Breathed Annie. Jack looked around the room. In the dancing light, he could make out wooden buckets on the floor, a couple of broken chairs, a doorway leading to a back room, and squeak! A bat flapped above their heads. Ah! Jack, Annie, and Dipper ducked. The match went out. Dipper quickly lit another match. He held it up high, trying to light the room. Jack didn't see the bat, but he saw a bricked-over fireplace, some rusty lanterns, and lots of spider webs. Yikes, said Annie. The match went out. Help, said Annie in a small voice. More light, please. Nobody panic, said Dipper. I got 2 matches left. Just 2? Said Annie. Hey, I thought I saw some lanterns, said Jack. near the fireplace. Maybe we could light them." "Good idea," said Dipper. "Maybe there's oil still in 'em. I just hope I can light the wicks, or we'll be left in the dark with the bats." "And spiders," said Annie. "And ghosts," Jack thought. Dipper struck his next to last match. He held it up to find the lanterns. "Over here," said Jack, pointing. "I see," said Dipper. But as he knelt on the floor, the match went out. "I got just one more," he whispered, "so we better be real careful." Dipper lit his last match. Jack slowly lifted the glass on both the lanterns. Very carefully, Dipper touched the match flame to the wick of the first lantern. The wick sputtered and flickered to life. A yellow glow filled the room. "Ah," said Dipper. He lit the second lantern. "Beautiful. You can each carry one." Jack picked up one of the lanterns. Annie put down her trumpet and picked up the other one. The firelight cast eerie shadows on the walls. "Scree!" A sound from the back room startled them. It sounded like the creak of a door opening. Jack's heart began to pound. Wham! The sound of a door slamming shut. Jack's heart beat faster and faster. "Hey!" called Dipper. "Who's back there?" No one answered. Clump, clump, clump. The sound of footsteps on stairs. Jack held his breath. "Who's there?" yelled Dipper. "Woo!" "Show yourself!" yelled Dipper. The shutters outside banged harder against the walls. "Woo!" "Mercy!" whispered Dipper. Jack's hand trembled, shaking the lantern and making the shadows in the room dance even more wildly. The moaning came again. "Woo!" "Annie," said Jack, "the trumpet! The time is right." "I know it, I feel it," said Annie. She put down her lantern and grabbed the trumpet. "Sing, Jack." Annie lifted the magic trumpet to her lips and blew. A pure, smooth sound flowed from the trumpet and filled the room. As Annie played, Jack started singing. "Ghost, ghost, leave us alone. Stop, stop, stop your moaning." What a stupid song, Jack thought, but they were the only words that came to his mind. Then he remembered Dipper's advice. When you can't think of words, just sing sounds. Make 'em up. Put your heart in it. So Jack started singing nonsense sounds. He sang with all his heart, pouring all his feelings into the sounds, telling the ghost to go. "Skiddat-dee-dat, skiddat-dee-dow, skittle, skittle, daddle, daddle, out of here now." Thumping noises came from the other room, as if heavy things were falling. "Who's there?" shouted Dipper. Annie stopped playing. Jack stepped back in fear, waiting for something awful to happen. Then he heard laughing and whispering. "Hey!" shouted Dipper. He picked up Annie's lantern and headed into the other room. Jack and Annie followed. Little Mac, Happy, and Big Nose Sydney were crawling toward the back door. "Stop!" yelled Dipper. "What are y'all doing here?" The three boys all talked at once. "We fell out of the attic. Felt like something was pushing us out. Yeah, then down the stairs and toward the door." "Jack's song pushed you downstairs," said Annie, laughing. "He ordered the ghost to leave us alone. His singing was magic." "Your playing was magic, too," Dipper said to Annie. "You two really put your hearts in it." "Thanks," said Jack. Dipper looked down at Little Mac. "Now tell us what you three fools were up to," he said. "We decided to play a joke on y'all," said little Mac. "So we snuck through the back door and up to the attic." "We thought you left because you were scared of ghosts," said Annie. "Heck no, man," said little Mac. "We're not afraid of ghosts," said Happy. "Not even a little bit," said Big Nose Sydney. Suddenly, a cold wind blasted through the room. The lanterns flickered out. An eerie green light lit the blacksmith shop. "What?" a voice roared. "Not afraid of ghosts?" The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Ah!" the kids all screamed together. "Ha ha ha!" Mean-sounding laughter echoed through the shop. It grew louder and louder. "Ha ha ha!" "Ah!" the kids all screamed again. Stomping noises thundered in the attic overhead. Everyone shrieked and froze with terror. Down from the attic came a pirate. His face was hidden by the brim of a black hat. He wore a gray jacket with a double row of buttons, a red sash, and dark pants tucked inside black boots. The pirate looked like a real person, except you could see right through him. Chapter 8. Heebie-jeebies. Thunder shook the night. The wind howled. The pirate ghost floated down the stairs. "The ghost of Jean Lafitte," whispered Annie. The ghost pointed a bony finger at Happy. "Not afraid of ghosts?" His voice boomed again. He pointed at Big Nose Sydney. "Not even a little bit? Ha ha ha!" "Ah!" everyone shrieked again. They all scrambled out of the back room to the front room. They pushed on the front door together, but the door still wouldn't open. "Scurvy dogs, you cannot escape me!" the ghost of Jean Lafitte shouted. The pirate ghost floated to the center of the room and stopped. He rested his hands on his hips, threw back his head, and laughed again. "You're trapped now!" Jean Lafitte roared. "Trapped here forever!" To Jack's horror, more ghost pirates began gliding through the walls into the room. One at a time they came, a pirate with a gold earring, another with a pistol, one with a headscarf, another with an eye patch, one with a saber, another with a bushy beard, one with a thin mustache, another with a sack, one with a striped shirt, another with a peg leg. Finally, 10 ghost pirates circled the room. From the center of the circle, Jean Lafitte let out another peal of mean laughter. "Ha ha ha!" The pirate crew snorted, snarled, and growled. "Yarr! Arr! Arl!" Suddenly, Jack started singing. "Skittle diddle dog! Hey, hey, hey! Ghost, go away! Go away, go away!" "Jack," said Annie, "what are you doing?" "Play, Annie, play!" squeaked Jack. "I can't," said Annie. "We used up the magic. It's just an ordinary trumpet now." "Here, give it to me," said Dipper. Annie handed Dipper the trumpet. Dipper put the trumpet to his lips. He closed his eyes. He took a deep breath, and then he blew. The air vibrated with a single worm note. Then Dipper's fingers danced over the trumpet's valves. A lively, swinging tune filled the blacksmith shop. Jean Lafitte stopped laughing his mean laugh. He held up his hands for his crew to be silent. As Dipper played, crooked smiles crossed the pirates' faces. Dipper's joyful music drowned out the noise of the storm outside. Annie snatched 2 rungs from a broken chair. She used them as drumsticks, tapping them against a wooden bucket. Jack grabbed 2 more rungs and did the same. Dipper paused long enough to yell to his trio, "Hey, boys, sing the heebie-jeebie song." "We don't know it," said Little Mac. "Make something up," called Dipper. As Dipper played the trumpet, Little Mac sang, "I got the heebies, you got the jeebies." Then Happy sang, "The heebies make you hop and the jeebies make you quake." Then Big Nose Sydney sang, "Do a little dance, Mama, stomp and shake." As the trio sang, the ghost of Jean Lafitte started to dance. He shook his head and clapped his hands. He waved his arms through the air. He turned in a circle. "Go, Mama, go!" he shouted. Lafitte's crew began dancing like their captain. All the ghost pirates moved in a circle, shaking their heads and waving their hands. Some floated off the floor, turning this way and that. Little Mac sang, "Hey, Papa, hey, Mama, hey, hey, hey." "Hey, hey, hey," all the pirates shouted. "Hey, hey, hey." Dipper played the trumpet. Jack and Danny drummed on the bucket. The trio sang. The floor shook. The windows rattled. And all the pirates stomped and shook, doing the heebie-jeebie dance. "Swing that music," shouted Jean Lafitte's ghost. "Yar!" the pirates all shouted. "Yar! Yar!" The front door suddenly banged open. "Go, Mama, go, Papa, go, go, go," shouted the ghost of Jean Lafitte. He danced out of the shop, and his pirate crew followed one by one. As the ghosts all danced out of the shop, Dipper kept playing. The trio kept singing, and Jack and Danny kept drumming. "My crew and I sure enjoyed your visit," the pirate ghost captain shouted back to Dipper and the others. "Be sure to come back, same time next year." The ghost of Jean Lafitte turned and waved his arms in the air again. "Come on, boys, Papa's doing the heebie-jeebies dance." Then, doing the heebie-jeebies dance, all the pirate ghosts danced away into the dark New Orleans night. "Were those ghosts real?" "I don't know," said Dipper. "But I'll tell you this, you'll never, ever get me back in that shop again." Everyone laughed. Even Happy looked happy. "Hey, Dipper, how'd you get so good on that horn?" he asked, grinning. "I practiced for 2 years at the Waves Home," said Dipper. "That's how." "You got to blow that horn while we sing," said Big Nose Sydney. "Come with us now. We really do have an important gig tonight on a riverboat." "A riverboat?" Jack and Danny sat together. They looked at each other. Their research book said that Louis Armstrong developed his musical talents performing on riverboats. "That's right," said Little Mac. "Oh, wow, Dipper, you have to go with them," said Annie. "Yeah, man," said Jack. But Dipper just shook his head. "Sorry, folks, but I can't play tonight. I have to get up early in the morning to haul coal." "Aw, Dipper," said Lil Mac. "Aw, Dipper," said Jack. "Don't y'all worry about me," said Dipper. "Have a good time on the boat, fellas. Hang on to that smile, Happy." "I'll try," said Happy. "See you later," said Big Nose Sydney. "So long to y'all, too," Little Mac said to Jack and Danny. "Bye," said Jack. "Good luck on your gig," said Annie. The 3 boys waved and took off. Dipper looked after them for a long moment. Then he turned to Jack and Danny. "Here's your horn back," he said. "Thanks for letting me play it." He handed the trumpet to Annie. "Do you want to keep it?" she said. "No, thanks. I have my own horn back at my house. "A cornet they gave me at the Waif's home," said Dipper. "Someday when I'm grown, maybe I'll bring it out again." "I think you should have gone with the fellas, Dipper," said Jack. "To share your musical gifts." I know," said Dipper. "To share my musical gifts with the world." He shook his head as if he were shaking off the thought. Then he beamed a big smile at Jack and Annie. "Hey, weren't we talking about dessert a little while back? That's a gig I can get behind and still get some sleep. Come on." As Dipper led Jack and Annie down the rain-slicked street, the wet sidewalks glistened like silver. Life had returned to the French Quarter. Horses and mules splashed through puddles. Street lamps burned brightly outside dance halls and restaurants. Waiters carried tables and chairs back outside. When Dipper, Jack, and Annie came to Jackson Square, they found kids playing music again. A band was playing a song Jack knew, "When the Saints Go Marching In." A few people in costumes were wandering about. Dipper led Jack and Annie to the back door of the River Cafe. "The cook here is a friend of mine, so don't worry about the waiters," he said with a wink. "Be back in a minute." He slipped into the cafe kitchen. As Jack and Annie waited for Dipper, they could hear the jazzy music coming from the square. "Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in." Teddy was right. "I love New Orleans," said Annie. "Me too," said Jack. "But how are we ever going to accomplish our mission for Merlin? Dipper seems like he's never going to change his mind about making music." "I know," said Annie. "In fact, I was just thinking that we might have to do something really drastic." "What's that?" said Jack. "Show him our research book," said Annie. "Whoa," said Jack. "Do you really think—" Before Jack could finish, Dipper came back outside. Talk about something good," he said. He clutched a greasy napkin filled with freshly made doughnuts. "Follow me." As Jack and Annie followed Dipper to the river, Jack's mind was racing. Should they show Dipper the research book? It would prove they'd come from the future. What would Dipper say? What would he think? It's too weird, Jack thought. "Let's just try talking to him first," Jack whispered to Annie. She nodded. Dipper led them to a bench near the water. Jack and Annie sat on the wet wood on either side of him. Dipper unwrapped the doughnuts and handed one to Jack and one to Annie and kept one for himself. "Careful," Dipper said. "The sugar will get all over y'all." Jack lifted the worm-sticky doughnut to his mouth and took a big bite. Powdered sugar, flour, butter, vanilla, all melted in his mouth. It was mighty good. Nobody talked while they ate their doughnuts. When they were finished, they all wiped their sticky fingers on their shirts and pants. By now, Jack's clothes were soaked with rainwater, coal dust, kitchen grease, sweat, and grime. A little powdered sugar and butter won't make a bit of difference, he thought. "So, Dipper," said Annie, "you know you're a really great musician, don't you?" Dipper smiled at her. "Actually, you're a creative genius," added Jack. Dipper laughed out loud. "And y'all know who you are, don't you?" "Yep, the biggest potato heads you ever met," finished Jack. "But this time we're right," said Annie. "Nope, sorry," said Dipper. "I'm definitely no genius. The truth is, I never got past elementary school. I don't even know how to read music." "But don't you love to play music?" said Annie. "Yeah, sure I do. Somehow, I've got music in my bones," said Dipper. "Sad to say, all I really ever want to do is blow my horn." "Then why don't you?" said Jack. He felt desperate. Even without their mission for Merlin, it seemed incredibly sad that Dipper had turned his back on music. "Yeah, why don't you go play on the riverboat with the fellas?" said Annie. "It wouldn't hurt you to miss a few hours' sleep." Dipper took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "When I was 12 years old, I got too rowdy one time," he said. "It was New Year's Eve. I was singing with the fellas and I got carried away and fired off a gun. Just into the air. I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. But I got caught and I got sentenced to 2 years in the waves home. I just got out a little while ago. I feel really bad for letting my family down like that. So right now all I want to do is help them by keeping a steady job." "But what about a job playing music?" said Jack. "Great musicians can make a lot of money and help their families." "Not playing the music I want to play," said Dipper. "At least I haven't met any. Have you?" "Yes, actually we have," said Annie. She turned and looked at Jack. "We have to do it." Jack signed, then nodded slowly. Annie was right. He reached into his bag and pulled out their research book. Chapter 10. Thanks a Million. Jack pushed his glasses into place and opened a history of New Orleans music. "What's that, man?" Dipper asked. "It's a history book," said Jack. "Teddy and Kathleen gave it to us," said Annie. "Oh yeah, my best friends," said Dipper. Jack looked in the index of the book. He found the right page and turned to it. "I'm going to read something to you, man," said Jack. "Just listen." And Jack read. As a young teenager, Louis Armstrong often performed with kid bands on the streets of the city. Eventually, he played with older musicians in dance halls, and he developed his musical talents performing on Mississippi riverboats. When he was 21, he moved to Chicago, where he played in the well-known band of his old friend Joe Oliver. "Joe Oliver?" said Dipper. "Joe's in that book? I'm in that book?" "Yep. Hold on, there's more," said Jack. He read. Over time, Louis Armstrong became world famous, but he always called New Orleans home. The city honored him by naming a large park the Louis Armstrong Park. It also named its airport the Louis Armstrong International Airport. "What's that, International Airport?" asked Dipper. "That's where planes fly in and out from all over the world," said Annie. Dipper started laughing. "Y'all are pulling my leg." "No," said Jack. "We're not. Look at this, Dipper." He held up the book and showed Dipper the picture of Louis Armstrong, the king of jazz, playing the trumpet in front of a huge crowd. "That's you, Dipper." Jack waited for Dipper to laugh and say the picture wasn't him, but Dipper stopped smiling and nodded. Yeah, I've seen that picture before," he said softly. "You have?" said Jack, stunned. "You've seen this picture before?" said Annie. "Where?" "Here." Dipper touched his chest. "Here, in my heart. It's the picture I've had in my heart for a long time, like a dream. Hey, y'all, is this a dream?" Jack and Annie laughed. Annie smiled. "Yes, you could say that," she said. "But it's a true dream," said Jack. "Keep that picture in your heart, Dipper," said Annie. "Hold it close to you, and one day you'll be living it. We promise." For a long time, the three of them just stared at the picture. When Jack looked at Dipper again, He saw tears glisten in Dipper's eyes. "Okay, I'll do that," said Dipper. He wiped his eyes with the palms of his hands. "I think I can keep my jobs and start making a little room for my music, too." "Yes," said Annie. "Maybe you should go play with the fellas on the riverboat tonight," said Jack. "Yeah, maybe I'll try and do that," said Dipper. "Great," said Annie. Jack heaved a sigh and put away their book. Dipper stood up. "But now you all have to get going. On the eve of All Saints' Day, there's a curfew for kids under 13. They have to be off the streets by 9 or the paddy wagon will pick 'em up. So, you're definitely on the path to sharing your musical gift with the world, right, man?" asked Jack. Dipper laughed. "I reckon I am," he said. "Thanks to a couple of potato heads." "Okay, good," said Jack. He and Danny stood up. "To get home, we need to walk to Bourbon Street and catch a streetcar to Canal Street." "Let's go," said Dipper. The three of them left the waterfront. They walked past Jackson Square and headed past the cathedral on St. Peter Street. "I'll walk y'all back to Bourbon Street," said Dipper. "Then do you have time to ride back with us to Canal Street?" said Annie. "So we can hang out together a little longer on the train?" "You know I can't do that," said Dipper. "They won't let me sit with y'all on the streetcar." "Why not?" asked Jack. "I'd have to sit in the back while y'all sit up front," said Dipper. "What are you talking about?" said Annie. "Y'all are white. I'm black," said Dipper. "So?" said Annie. "Black folks aren't allowed to sit with white folks. That's the way it is," said Dipper. "Are you kidding? That's crazy," said Annie. "No, I'm not kidding," said Dipper. He stopped walking and looked closely at Jack and Annie. "Where are y'all from? How'd you get that crazy history book with my picture in it? And why did y'all come here to find me?" "It's really hard to explain, Dipper," said Jack. "But just know this. One day things are going to change. Everybody will sit together on trains and buses and planes. And one day, an African American man will run for President of the United States," said Annie. "And millions of people of all colors will vote for him." "And he'll win," said Jack. Dipper laughed and shook his head. "Okay, now I know I'm dreaming," he said. "But I really like this dream." "It's the truth," said Annie. "We promise." By now they had come to the corner of St. Peter and Bourbon Street. "This is where I leave you," said Dipper. Annie threw her arms around Dipper and gave him a big hug. "Goodbye, Dipper." Jack did the same. "Bye, man," he said. "Thanks a million." "Same to you," said Dipper. "Hey, there's your streetcar now." The streetcar glided to a stop at the corner. Jack and Danny hopped aboard and sat in front. As the streetcar went up Bourbon Street, they stuck their heads out the window and waved to Dipper. He waved back. Jack and Danny waved and waved until they couldn't see Dipper anymore. Chapter 11. Swing That Music. As the streetcar rumbled down Canal Street, Jack looked over his shoulder. Dipper was right. African Americans were sitting in the back, while only white people were in the front. Jack hadn't even noticed it on their first streetcar ride. Jack's heart felt heavy. Why would anyone not want to sit next to someone just because they are a different color? He wondered. How could anyone ever be mean to Dipper? Dipper, who is gentle and friendly and kind. Dipper, who hears music everywhere. Jack listened to the click-clack of the streetcar rolling down the tracks. The sound had a good beat. Jack tapped his hand against his knee until the streetcar came to a stop. "Let's go," said Annie. Jack and Annie stood up. Canal Street was bright with lights. People were still selling things on the sidewalk. "What time is it, please?" Jack asked the conductor. 5 minutes after 9, boy," said the conductor. "Y'all better head for home." "We are," said Annie. Jack and Annie hopped off the streetcar and started to run. They ran to the bottom of Canal Street and crossed to the palm trees in the grove near the Mississippi River. In the dark, they found the rope ladder and scrambled up it into the treehouse. Jack grabbed the Pennsylvania book that would take them home. "Wait," said Annie, looking out the window. "Look!" A brightly lit Mississippi showboat was rolling up the river. A large paddle wheel behind the boat was churning the water. Music was coming from on board. Annie grabbed Jack's arm. "Listen, the heebie-jeebies," she said. Jack listened. He could hear the trio singing, Little Mac, Happy, and Big Nose Sydney. But the best sound of all was the bright sound of a horn sailing through the New Orleans night. "It's Dipper," said Annie. "It's got to be." "He caught the boat," said Jack. "Just in time." Jack and Annie listened to the joyful swinging sound of Dipper's music until the riverboat rolled out of sight. Jack heaved a happy sigh. Then he pointed at their Pennsylvania book. "I wish we could go home," he said. The wind began to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Jack and Annie were wearing their own clothes again. Rain tapped gently against the roof of the treehouse. A cool breeze blew through the window. "We have to get home before Mom and Dad wake up," said Annie. "Right," said Jack. He pulled a history of New Orleans music out of his backpack and left it on the floor. Annie put the trumpet beside it. Then they headed down the rope ladder. They pulled up their rain hoods. As they tramped in their boots through the wet autumn woods, they were both quiet. Finally, Annie said, "I feel good." "I feel good too," said Jack. "We accomplished our mission." "But I feel other things too," said Annie. "I feel mad that Dipper couldn't sit on the streetcar with us." "Me too," said Jack. "And it wasn't just in New Orleans. A long time ago they had laws like that in lots of places." "Unbelievable," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. "And I feel scared when I think of those spiders and their webs," said Annie. "Oh, they didn't bother anybody," said Jack. "But I still feel scared when I think of ghosts." "Actually, they didn't bother anybody either," said Annie. "True," said Jack. "And neither did that bat." Annie laughed. "That's true too," she said. "I feel sad when I think we'll never see Dipper again." "We can listen to his music," said Jack. "Yeah. And I guess the music all around us will always make us think of him," said Annie. "Like right now, Dipper would hear the music of the rain." "Tappity tap tap," said Jack. "And the music of our feet scrunching over the dead leaves," said Annie. Scrunchity scrunch scrunch, said Jack. Patty pat pat, sang Annie. Skidaddy dat, sang Jack. Skidaddy do, sang Annie. Go, Mama, go, shouted Jack, and the two of them ran out of the Frog Creek woods and up their street, heading for home.